Good evening, Grinders. Welcome to Monday Showdown Live here on Rotogrinders. I'm Jordan Cooper, aka Blender Ed, Blender HD. I'm joined by Will Priester, Chief Justice 06. Coming to you a little bit later today because NBA is going on. We got NFL. We got one game, Bills Patriots going on. So feel free in the YouTube chat. We can see you. We can see you. Hit that thumbs up button. Hit that subscribe button. Hit the notification bell. Hit first place in the GPP tonight. Hopefully not duplicated with me, but whatever. Well, I don't mind sharing. If it's a little, maybe four of you. Four. I could do four. Four. I don't mind that. Me, Will, and three of you in chat. So you decide amongst yourselves who wants to dupe with me. But Will, we got Bills, we got Patriots. Let's get right into it. I mean, this would be about a half an hour long. Inactives is the only major one that we care about is that Damian Harris is inactive.
That's what it seems like, because, we already got the news earlier that John Brown was not probably going to be activated prior to Monday Night Football, which it's good for me, one less person to worry about. But yeah, I think this Damian Harris news is interesting. Just based on the ownership that I was looking at, everybody's kind of going to be flocking towards James White, which is understandable. But it also kind of leaves Sony Michel out there in no man's land. I'm not going to get into Slate IQ right this minute, but Sony Michel may have some leverage tonight. I mean, he's $7K, pretty expensive. Not saying he's the best player in the world, but I definitely think he's a better player than Zach Moss and Devin Singletary. At least I know he's probably guaranteed 10 to 15 carries for sure. Where Devin Singletary and Zach Moss, I don't know who it's going to be this week. One week this one's 60%, the next week this one's 60%. I know Sony Michel's getting most of the carries, and I know James White is going to get 2 carries and some targets. So I feel a lot better about this. With Damian Harris out of the mix, it really makes me like Sony Michel. And with this ownership reflection, I really want to see what I can do to get him in.
Right, we have a total on this game at 47. The Bills as a 7-point favorite. Talking about Damian Harris, I mean, obviously the running game for the Patriots, it's hard to play because Cam Newton has a rushing floor. He vultures. If you want to call it vulturing, if you're playing Cam Newton, it's not a vulture.
Right.
When a running back gets a touchdown. But Newton has the highest touchdown equity at the goal line. There have been rumblings with the fact that the Patriots have nothing to play for. They're eliminated from the playoffs. Do you believe that Stidham has a chance? I'm not saying I'm not going to go off on the whole backup quarterback. Mariota in the lineup. I'm not saying that this means that you roster Stidham. I'm saying that Cam Newton is 9,000, and that's pretty cheap for a rushing quarterback that has a 20 total. Do you have any concerns that Cam will not play the full game today?
I'm glad you asked that question because that's something that I've kind of, been back and forth with because, you talk about the rumblings, it seems as if Cam isn't going to play the whole game. But I do know Cam's a competitor. I think if it's not the whole game, here's how I think it goes, generally speaking. If the game is close and it's somewhat competitive, let's say the Patriots are only down 3 at halftime. I don't think there's any way Cam Newton is going to let himself check out of a game and let Jarrett Stidham go in there, just from a competitive standpoint. So I think that's the only way Cam plays the whole game. If Cam throws 2 interceptions and this team's down 28-10 at the half, he could very well be on the bench come halftime, which means we get half of Stidham. That doesn't make me excited, but I think the reason you're asking it is we've got a pretty good projection on Cam right now, but that's based on the whole game, I think. If Cam doesn't play the whole game, he's not going to get to that projection. We've got him around 20 points, if I'm not mistaken. I think maybe it's 19, but he's close.
Obviously, with Cam, it's hard to stack with him because there's no necessarily clear wide receiver one. You could say that Jacoby Myers is, but you also have Damiere Byrd. You have N'Keal Harry. The tight ends are not that much in play. Obviously they could catch a touchdown in the end zone. You got Gunnar Olszewski. I never know how to pronounce his name. He comes in every once in a while. He's on special teams. Uh, out of the three primary receivers, Myers is 7,200, Bird is 4,000, and Harry is 3,200. Uh, are you more likely to pair a receiver with Cam, or are you more likely to not worry about that? I mean, if you take Cam and Sony Michel, you get like pretty much their entire rushing, and the Bills are the most susceptible in the running game, more so than the passing game. So you would think that the Patriots are going to lean more towards that. Do you see builds where you could play both of them in?
I think it's possible. I think if we do that, I think we've got to assume that. Let me go back to your first question. I know it's weird, but you brought up something where you talked about the upside of the Patriots offense is really through their run game. It's not really through the pass game, right? And if we're thinking that Cam's going to play the whole game, I think if you're banking on Cam playing the whole game, in my mind, you're banking on him scoring some touchdowns. And if you're banking on him scoring some touchdowns, then it's going to be through the run game. I think I'd just take the cheaper receiver of the two. I think the optimal pairing is probably Cam and Michelle. And I know that sounds crazy, but it's
not as crazy. Will, it's not that crazy when Cam is 9,000. If Cam was 11,500, that's a different story. It's not something I'm doing. For all transparency, I'm playing 4 lineups tonight. That's it. I was doing a ton for NBA. So I'm playing
doing NBA.
Right. I was doing a bunch of NBA. I'm playing 4 lineups, and I'm playing it primarily in the 180, where there's only 2,100 entries or whatever. So I don't have to go nuts thinking about duplication. So it's on the nights where I could focus on Showdown and build 20, 40 lineups, and
which those nights are gone because it's NBA now, and that's bread and butter season.
Right. So now I'm less dupe minded and more like, can I get the optimal construction? So just I'm posing questions for those that play multiple types of GPPs. But although Newton and Michelle would be negatively correlated to touchdowns, less people are going to play them together, and Newton is cheap enough that you could build a lineup with both of them in there. I would be less inclined to do so, but it's much more viable with the pricing the way it is than it would be on most slates. So, getting away from the Patriots, let's talk about the Bills. I think the Bills are so much more straightforward. We know what it is. John Brown was not activated he was activated and then put on the COVID list. So it's the same as him not playing. So we got Allen, we got Diggs, we got Beasley. Diggs and Beasley are only different 1,000 in price.
Yeah, but obviously what we're used to. We're used to Beasley having a really steep discount, but the price has finally caught up with the market share.
Right, and then we also have Gabriel Davis at 5,000. You got Isaiah McKenzie, kind of gadget wide receiver 4 at 800. Dawson Knox is priced at 5,600. Obviously, we'll talk about the kickers and the defenses in a little bit. Obviously, he could throw to like a Lee Smith at 400 if you get a lucky touchdown. And then you have the 2 running backs, Singletary and Moss. Moss has more, obviously, goal line equity, but obviously Josh Allen has a lot of goal line equity. So at 7,600 and 7,400, are you looking to avoid the Bills running backs, or do you have a lean towards one of them?
I think because of this Damien Harris news, I actually feel like I can avoid the Bills running game altogether. I'm saying it in some builds. I'm not saying every build, but I'm saying I feel like Sony Michel is more valuable than Zach Moss and Devin Singletary today. That doesn't mean they won't be in the winning lineup. But, for me, now we're starting to get into what I consider 3 entry max, 5 entry max, 20 entry max stuff, because we've got NBA going on before NFL now. I'm actually really inclined in those type of contests to completely fade the Bills running game, Singletary and Moss, and just play Michelle and play Cam and run it back with the Buffalo Bills passing game. And I'm willing to take that stand on this slate.
And I'm taking the complete opposite stand. I'm doing it for that very reason. I'm doing it for the reason of like, why would you don't know who to play, and Michelle projects better than both of them, but in Slate IQ I trust. Will Slate IQ rules the day in my world. Eric Bimefor. If you don't know Eric Bimefor's article for Slate IQ for Showdown, you're not a premium member. Click on that link in the description in the YouTube video in the YouTube description, right there. You get $10 off your first month. There's a premium piece of content. I find Slate IQ for NFL Showdown and MLB is extremely valuable. Because it runs a data analysis on like all the past possible slates that this matches up, the archetype matches up to, and it runs a simulation a whole 1,000 times based on the ownership, based on the projections, and then comes out with the top 0.1% versus the field. And according to Slate IQ today, I'm not going to show it because I sometimes show it to the freebie people get the premium content, but you have to pay for that.
And I'm going to play devil's advocate on this one today. I'm just letting you know, but it'll make sense once I get to it. You go ahead.
Okay, so we rarely see 5-1 is going to be the popular build, but actually in Slate IQ, it's the highest leverage build also. Like, it's going to be popular, and it's still not going to be popular enough, according to Slate IQ. We rarely get that. A lot of times 5-1 is over-owned. This time, 5-1 is the most owned and still under-owned. And the top captain choice, according to simulations, not by that much, so it's not, like, ridiculous, is running back 1. That's Devin Singletary, right? So, like, if I just blindly trust in Slate IQ, which it's eerily right or close to right often. Singletary is not going to be a popular captain choice. So, like in my 4 lineups, I have 2 Singletary captains and 2 Diggs captains. I think Diggs is like the obvious. Wide receiver 1 is the second highest. So I get it. Like Diggs has the highest ceiling out of all of them. I think Allen may be a little over-owned in captain as a quarterback. It has negative leverage. So, like, most of my builds are all 5-1s, all 4 5-1s, and then my 1 Patriot is like Bird, or I think I have Bird in one, I have Harry in the other, I have White in another one. I'm spending most of the salary because I'm in the 180 with only 2,000 or so people, so I don't have to worry. Especially Singletary captain lineups, that they're not going to be popular.
Yeah, they won't be popular at all.
Right. So I'm focused 5-1. Basically Allen, Diggs, Singletary. We have positive leverage tight end 1 in the captain, a little bit, like 6% versus 11%. So that leans me towards a seemingly overpriced Dawson Knox. So I'm kind of building that.
But if he's a captain, you can literally play everybody else.
Right. But I'm not doing that at captain, but I'm just using him. And then Tyler Bass, the kicker. And weirdly enough, the Bills' defense is 5,400. You know me. You know me, Will. I'm a big advocate of, like, how many people could beat the defense. Especially, I mean, this is not a $7,000 defense, but $5,400 defense. You got Davis, you got Bird, you got Bass, you got Falk, you got Patriots, you got Harry, and then you got a whole bunch of Isaiah McKenzie, you got a whole bunch of those people. One of the highest leverage captains, according to Slate IQ, is DST1. You don't see that often.
Yeah, very interesting.
Very interesting. Typically, the defenses are a little bit over-owned, but it's actually saying that it's going to be under-owned. Now, I'm not playing them in the captain, but I have, in my 4 lineups, I have the Bills DST in 2 of them. Basically, I'm trying to get that 5-1. I'm trying to get like a Bills 31-7 type of, maybe not 31, like they get 3 field goals or something, like they're able to move the ball. The Patriots only have 7 points. Cam gets benched. Stidham comes in, throws a pick 6, something like that. And according to Slate IQ, that is the based on ownership, based on leverage, the highest EV type of build.
Yeah, I'm with you. And here's my argument today. So the other part of Slate IQ on this one is RB1 is pretty much the best of both worlds on both sides of this game, right? If you're looking at it, it's really the highest for the losing team and the winning team.
Right. Let me highlight the fact that it's 5-1 towards the winning team. If the Patriots win the game, It could be 5-1 Patriots.
No, I know. Here's my thought process behind this. Cam's 9K this week. And while Cam is labeled as the quarterback, he is essentially the RB1.
That's not how Slate IQ works, and you know that.
I
The archetype
listen,
of the game already accounts for that.
I know. It's just, this
I
could
get
be
what you're saying, Will. I understand absolutely
this
what you.
could be a
Slate
Cam
IQ is not gospel. Slate IQ is
I
not like
know.
some grand wizard or anything.
Yeah. At 9K, I still feel, and Cam's 9K, in the flex. In captain, Cam is 13.5, which is significantly cheaper than the top three guys, and his projection is better. I think the speculation of Cam possibly not playing is possibly going to lead people away from him in captain now. In flex, we've still got a pretty good projection on him at 50%, obviously. I think Cam might be a good captain tonight for the price. I think I'm still going to go 4-2 build and just hope Cam doesn't implode and they can keep this game close. And if Cam can throw for 150 yards and a touchdown and run 2 in, I might have a shot at the end. And so that's kind of the build I'm leaning to. Keep in mind, I'm doing a lot more single entry like you now, four lineups, 3 lineups. I'm not going crazy because, it was not a rat race for NBA today, but, it was right up until lock, just trying to make sure I felt comfortable. And so that's kind of where I'm at. I like Cam's price. I like the leverage I get. Projection is pretty good all the way around. And so that's kind of the approach I'm going to take.
Right, Dylan Moon in the chat on YouTube, hit that thumbs up button as always. Is asking does Slate IQ mean that the captain is from the winning team? No. There's no significant. You could you could play Sony Michel in the captain and then 5 Bills in the flex. Like that's kind of a weird type of lineup. That's more of a Patriots, almost like the Patriots winning, but Michel gets 3 touchdowns and then no other Patriots get there.
But that's so possible though.
Yeah.
Michel, if Michel gets 100 yards and 2 touchdowns, he's probably pushing close to optimal captain. Because at that point, he's got 25 fantasy points. I'm saying if he goes for 102 touchdowns, that's 25 fantasy points. And what if he's the only one that scores the touchdowns? What if he breaks one for 60? I don't think that's going to happen, obviously. But I'm saying he breaks off one big chunk run, and then they kind of move it down the field. Cam doesn't get any touchdowns. He throws for 150 yards, and the Bills kind of beat them, 35-14 or 38-14, and he kind of has a good game, and the Bills just kind of cruise. I mean, it's possible. RB1 is showing as a really good leverage spot for captain. It absolutely could work. That's the way I'm thinking about it when I'm saying Cam may be a good captain here. And so anyway, but I like
you're still treating Cam Newton as RB1. You don't care.
I know.
You don't care what it is. That's fine. I get it. No, that's perfectly fine. Cam and the captain and 5 Bills also. I mean, it does make sense because the Patriots offense could be spread out. Myers gets 4 catches. Burge gets 3 catches. Too. I mean, there's no one guy that gets everything, and Cam rushes it into it 3 times.
And if that happens, that's the build. So that's kind of the approach I'm thinking through. But I like it, man. Dylan, you're using that noggin, buddy. I like that thought process. That line, I can guarantee you that lineup won't be duped.
Every line. Have you played these large field stuff? I look at the lineup and go, "There's no way this is duped," and then it's duped 7 times, and I go, "How do I win this?"
Well, I think I can take 7. 7's okay.
Yes, no 7. I'm settling on 7.
Yeah, 7's okay.
But you look at it and then you go, I don't know what the. I don't think anyone's going to play this, and you're like, oh, I guess 6 other people did. But with the kickers and the defenses, let's talk about the kickers, the defenses, and the cheap guys. Because everyone likes, if you're going to try to jam in, an Allen Diggs Beasley type of stack or something like that, you're probably going to have to go down to the bottom somewhere. The problem is that, these guys are touchdown or bust type of Lee Smith, Gunner, and Asiasi or Keen. I mean, it's going to be very hard for them raw points-wise to appeal in the optimal unless you have a captain that goes nuke. If Josh Allen captain wins, and Josh Allen has 2 passing touchdowns and 2 rushing touchdowns, and he's by far the top scorer, and you have to pay 1.5 for him, then it's quite possible that a 6-point Dalton Keene or, someone in the bottom, Lee Smith, is in the optimal. So that is viable, but I think from a raw points perspective, I think everyone underneath N'Keal Harry is kind of like a little bit of a prayer.
Yeah, yeah, and listen, it may take one of those. Like so for instance, if Isaiah McKenzie happens to catch one of those 40-yard touchdown passes today, he's probably going to be optimal because he's 800, and that means they probably played Josh Allen in the captain to get him anyway, and that's the only way it's going to work. But as long as one of these fringe guys does what their salary suggests, which is nothing, then we should be on our way to a profitable night.
And also in a 5-1 build, since we're talking about that type of construction, like I'm not considering the one Patriot to be like Nick Folk, right? Or the Patriots defense. Like a 5-1 typically means that one team has beaten the crap out of the other team. Yeah. Most likely, if the Patriots are down 3 touchdowns, they're not kicking field goals.
Correct.
People keep on in the chat. Someone's like, "You're all sleeping on Bird." Like I mentioned Bird. I think Bird point per dollar wise. I think Bird and Harry, like to me, rate out so much better than Myers for nearly double.
Yeah,
but that also make Myers lower owned. So I mean, we have Myers currently at 47% ownership. I mean, okay, maybe he will be owned. I don't know. N'Keal Harry is the lowest owned one, but truthfully, it's the one that I like the most out of them. I mean, I think Damiere Byrd has the most upside, but N'Keal Harry could catch 2 touchdowns.
Absolutely.
It really depends on who's playing quarterback.
I think we gotta, and that's the great mystery I think of this game. But if I had to side with one quarterback from them, I think I'd still side with Cam. I was trying to look. Cam had a fairly good game the last time. I mean, 9 rushing attempts, 54 yards and a touchdown, and that made up for his 174 yards passing. Cam has not passed for, over 300 yards. He's done it twice this year. And one time was against Houston, which makes sense. And one time was against Seattle at the beginning of the season. That made sense because their secondary was awful. And I mean, recently, he's just been atrocious. 119 against the Rams, 69 against the Chargers, 84 against Arizona. I mean, it's just been rough.
Yeah, but you're not playing Cam for him to throw 300 yards.
No. But I mean, we're going to need for Cam to have more than 69 yards. Well, even in that game, it's 69 yards passing. Jesus, he still had 2 rushing touchdowns. It's ridiculous. Oh, boy. Let's just hope if you're playing Cam, you're hoping that he's going to play the whole game. And I think that's...
Well, obviously, we always play guys hoping to play the whole game, right?
Well, yeah, but I'm saying in this case, we at least have some information ahead of time suggesting it's possible he doesn't make it. With some of these other ones where we're just playing a backup quarterback hoping for an injury, we don't know. I mean, we're just throwing, spaghetti at a wall and hoping it sticks. But in this scenario, we've at least, like you said, the perfect word is the rumblings. So yeah, that's kind of where we are with Cam. One guy that I did want to mention, and I know it feels like we've talked about everybody, but I do think, and we talked about the kicker, but I do think the kicker, Tyler Bass, I think he's very valuable on this particular slate. Like, I know we haven't talked about it, but I think he's probably one of the most valuable Bills on the slate today. Like, I think he's got 12 to 15 point upside in this spot for sure. Like, we've seen the Bills have one of those weeks where they just kind of stall out, a couple times. Not that Josh Allen doesn't get his 3 touchdowns, but they get down there in between the 20s and just can't move it. And Tyler Bass comes trotting out, kicks 3 field goals in the first half, a 40-yarder, a 40-yarder, and a 30-yarder. And before, lo and behold, he's at 11 points at halftime. And I definitely think on this slate, Tyler Bass with the 5-1 build, he's almost essential in my book for the 5-1 build.
Yeah, because you have to figure, if you think of how the Patriots play defense, they're traditionally a bend but not break type of defense where they don't mind giving up yards until you hit the red zone, and then they're a little bit tough in the red zone. So, the Bills may get to the 20 4 times, kick a field goal, and Bass end up with double digits at 3,800, and there aren't many. I mean, if you take a look at the guys below Bass, there aren't many guys that could score double-digit points on average in the most reasonable scenario. So no, I'm absolutely with you there. Someone's asking about Gabriel Davis and captain. I mean, large field GPPs, go for it. I mean, you pair him up with Allen, right? You could do something. You could absolutely it's Showdown, right? Like Showdown is, I mean, is the ultimate. Why do you think I host these shows? Right? Play whatever you want. I mean, like that, right? It's Showdown. Just make a lineup that makes sense, less likely to be duplicated, right? I mean, the higher the scoring game, the more correlated the lineup most likely will be. In a lower scoring game, we have these chaos lineups where nothing makes sense, where you have a receiver and the captain with no quarterback, you have double defense, you got all, in the lower scoring games, like anything could happen. So if you're playing for a low scoring game, don't necessarily worry as much about correlation. Play double running backs, all those types of things. But if this game ends up being 38-14 or something, most likely a lineup that, if you look at it, you go, okay, I get that story. Like that, it's more likely to happen. Someone may have left 5,000 on the table, but it still makes sense from the construction perspective.
Yes.
Right, because someone's asking Singletary and Moss in the same lineup. Like, I'm not doing it, but no one else is either. I mean, at their prices, like that's going to be a tough sell for me. But hey, if you're playing large field GPPs, it's you get leverage by doing that. I'm less likely, if you play one of them in the captain, to play the other in the utility. It's like one of those things where you hope one of the running backs gets 20 plus points and the other one kind of just sits there and does nothing.
Correct.
So if you're in the YouTube chat, feel free to post your questions. We'll be here for another 5 minutes or so. Hit that thumbs up button. Hit that subscribe button. Hit the notification bell. I even have my cowbell here. Right? If you hit the notification bell, maybe you get the little cowbell with that. Or maybe can you set notifications on YouTube to have a custom? I wish you could.
A custom
one. Like I can make like you can do custom sounds on your phone.
Cowbell.
Right. I want cowbells for YouTube notifications. Everything else should be the normal, iOS, iPhone, whatever notification. That's fine with me.
Yes.
Bobby 04040 says it's a revenge game. Pats stopped Buffalo's playoffs chance last year, this week in New England. Is it a revenge game?
I don't know.
Does it matter to you? It doesn't matter to me.
I don't think it mattered. Not to me.
Well, the Bills want to win this game. I mean, this is a game that the Bills, right, for playoff seeding, of course. So
I don't think they're going to come out and lay down.
Right. But I mean, they could come out and not play well. I mean, we've seen the Bills not play well.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's definitely in the cards.
Ruben C says, I'm building 4-2 Pats winning with the Pats D. That's going to be different.
Yeah, very different.
And Tube Socks 000 says, a stupid Isaiah McKenzie touchdown is going to wreck everyone's lineup. Well, not the ones that, if you have them. I don't, so it'll wreck my lineups.
Yeah,
it's quite possible. You have to understand that with these low-priced players, that even if Isaiah McKenzie rushes in a 5-yard touchdown, like that's 6.5 points, and like if he does nothing else the rest of the game, it's still possible he's not even in the optimal lineup. So like we see that with Taysom Hill, right? When Breeze is in, like, oh, Taysom got a touchdown, and then doesn't even end up in the line because he only has 7 points. So it's not the end of the day. If one of the cheap guys gets in there, you always have to consider how many raw points they're gonna have.
Yeah. I mean, and that's why if you notice, Blender, a lot of times I think this is a good point. When we talk about the cheap guys, if you notice, I'm always saying a 30 or 40-yard touchdown. If they catch a 2-yard, they're only going to have 7.4 points, 7.2 points. If they catch a 1-yard touchdown, 7.1 points. They'd have to catch a few more passes to really like burn us at 7.4, even at those cheap prices, unless it's a really low scoring game. But if they catch a 30-yarder, now they're getting at that 10-point range, a 40-yarder, then at 11, and that's where it kind of changes things for us.
We have Cameron Miller in the chat asking Singletary or Myers. Myers projects about 1.5 points better in at least the blitz projections. But I mean, I don't know the context of your lineup. So, but I mean, according to the Cardi's projections, it makes more sense to play Myers over Singletary. But I don't know your lineup. Okay. Byron Hazel, last question. Would you shy away from Diggs with Pats focusing on taking away the top receiver? Do you buy into that narrative? Because half the time it's not. The top receiver ends up having 150 yards anyway.
Yeah, I'm not buying into it. So there are certain guys when it comes to like cornerbacks. Stephon Gilmore is a guy I respect. Like he's legitimately taken away like number one receivers. Stephon Gilmore is not out there running around. So I don't see anybody that's going to slow Stephon Diggs down in the slightest.
And the last question before this, Ruben C, is 11,000 entries low enough to use close to the max salary? Yeah, I think as long as you're different enough. I mean, if you're using a very low on guy and you're still using most of your salary, that's perfectly. 11,000 is not like ridiculously huge fields. It's not the 150,000 entry type of field. So I think you're fine. It obviously depends on your lineup, but so Will, I think there's no more Monday games, right? There's no Monday night game next week.
This may be it, man. Partying to such sweet sorrow.
Right. So this is it for us. The Monday Showdown series for this season is done. I always enjoy doing shows with you, and I'm sure we'll be doing NBA shows together.
Oh, it's almost guaranteed, I think. So I'm not even worried about it. I know we'll be on. It's been a pleasure, my friend. I'm glad I was able to hop in on this series. I think it's good. I think it's good to get, some fresh ideas before, right before lock. I know this one we're running pretty much almost into lock. But it's been a pleasure to hang out with everyone in chat. And hopefully you learned a little something. We don't know everything, but I think we know enough to help a few people out. So there it is.
Right. So follow Chief on Twitter, Chief Justice 06. I'm Blender HD on Twitter. And this has been Monday Showdown Live, last one of the season on Rotogrinders.com.